What's happening, everybody? Steve here, Rake and Profit. In today's video, I wanted to talk about my eBay to Amazon flipping business. I want to talk about how the used buy box is affecting my business and how it's affecting other people's businesses who are doing eBay to Amazon flips and traditional like Amazon to Amazon flips as well. And just want to talk about like some of the things that I'm doing differently, give some tips, give some advice, because I know it's a crazy time right now. Amazon's making a lot of changes, a lot of updates. So let's get right into the video. So let's start off with my business. In my business, I flip items from eBay to Amazon. You probably already know we buy items using Replen catcher on eBay. It gets drop shipped to a prep center. They receive it, they inspect it, they put everything in a box, they ship it off, and then I get paid. I used to actually have all the items shipped to my house, but about 15 months ago I started working with Little Owl Prep. So how is this used buy box issue affecting my business? Well, it's not affecting my business at all because I sell new items. 99% of my items are new. I don't even think I have any used items in my inventory at all right now. Matter of fact, I looked the other day and I didn't have any. So from time to time, I do send in books and used items if I find them at thrift stores or library sales, or maybe I'm like cleaning out my garage and find an item and I'm like, okay, I could sell this. Like maybe it's an Amazon return that I sold as new and now it's used, and instead of it selling for 80, it sells for 20, so I'll send it in. But I don't have any used items right now. So this buy box issue at the time of this recording is only affecting the used buy box. And it's not only books, it's used DVDs, it's used video games. And in a nutshell, what's happening is Amazon is no longer prioritizing the buy box for FBA sellers. They're actually giving the merchant fulfilled sellers the buy box, which is tanking the prices. A lot of FBA sellers aren't getting the buy box, which means if you don't get the buy box, which is 80% plus of the sales on Amazon, you're typically not going to sell your item. So a lot of sellers are saying that their sales are tanking. Mine aren't at all. Why? Not because I'm so smart, right? Not because I got a real nice bald head, but because I'm selling new, right? I'm selling new items. So this used buy box issue is only for the used market. Now it's interesting because there's a lot of people who are complaining and throwing up their arms and I'm quitting and I'm selling off my inventory, or I'm gonna have all my products at Amazon destroyed or sent back to me so I can merchant fulfill it. And there's people freaking out in the forums saying I don't want to send my stuff to FBA anymore. I want my prep centers to merchant fulfill all my inventory. There's a lot of craziness going on. But the funny thing is I was actually talking to my good friend Mike over at the Used Book Guide. Didn't you guys follow Mike? I mean, really just a great guy, trusted source, does over $10,000 a month. I sent him a message last night and I said, hey, what's the real deal? Like, what is actually going on right now? Because I hear people, like I have friends of mine who say, there's no issues, sales aren't down. Then I have other people who are like, my sales have tanked 80%. Like, what's going on right here? And he does a lot of thrifting, right? He does a lot of library sales. He does, local pickups and different things like that. And he showed me a screenshot from his sales. He was down, I think, about like 15 to 20% over the last 30 days. But right now is like notoriously known for slow book sales, and he sells mostly books. Well, actually, matter of fact, let me take that back. I think he sells mostly used items, but I think he sells a majority of DVDs. So let me take that back. Mike, if you're listening, I have to look back at our conversation. I think it's actually mostly DVDs, but either way, he sells mostly used and local pickups and whatnot. His sales were only down about 15 to 20%. And he sent me a couple examples of items where the merchants were at, let's just say 15, and he sold it for 25. Merchants were at 20, he sold it for 27. So he told me, as long as you're not pricing your items ridiculously high at insane prices or overly inflated buy box prices, you could still sell your items even if you're not winning the buy box, or even if you're FBA and not merchant fulfilling the items, which was interesting because, and I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen this, when a new update happens, it could be an API issue, it could be a gating issue, it could be a new rule or regulation on Amazon. People tend to just freak out and go 0 to 100. And what I've noticed is when a problem occurs or a change happens, something that disrupts a market, as in Amazon, just as an example, it's usually not the worst 100 out of 100, like the world is over, Armageddon. It's usually not a 0, like, oh, like, you know, the gurus, oh, it's no problem, everything's fine, like it's okay. It's usually somewhere in the middle. And I think people right now are freaking out maybe a little bit too much. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm taking data from a lot of different people, right? Not just from myself. And honestly, my data is like pretty irrelevant in terms of the used buy box because I sell new, but I'm taking data from people who are doing 10,000 a month, 2,000 a month, you know, 1,500 a month, people who are new, people who have been seasoned, people who are doing $500,000 a month, right? And I'm taking all of the data and I'm collecting it all. And I'm noticing that some people are suffering a lot more than other people, right? I think the people who are suffering the most are the folks who are flipping a lot of low-end books where, you know, the merchant's at $4 or $5 and they're trying to get 22, 23 FBA and it's a 2 to 3 million rank, right? It's that overly inflated buy box, right? So that's just kind of what I've seen, but it's still too soon to really call it. Like, we really don't know what's going on, but I'll get back to that topic probably in another video. But let's focus again back onto eBay to Amazon flipping. So what I've noticed is anybody who's flipping new, it's business as always. I mean, my sales are up over 100% in the last 30 days. Now, granted, I stopped buying products in December just because I knew my items weren't going to check in. So I had a really, really slow January and February were really, really crummy. So my sales are up just because we're spending a lot more money as well. But the new buy box isn't affected. Now, in terms of like my friends and students who are doing eBay to Amazon and Amazon to Amazon flips, the ones who are, you know, like using BookMine and using Replen Catcher and they're buying based on the true intrinsic value. They're looking at the Keepa charts. They're looking at that lowest black line on Keepa. They're looking at what is the real true intrinsic value of this item. They're buying at a worst case scenario to flip it at that lowest used, overall lowest offer. So what I'm trying to say is, like, if the used buy box is 80, right, on average all day long, and the lowest overall used offer is 60, when you buy the item, you're buying it to flip it for 60. Hey, maybe you'll list it at 75 or 80 and get that, you know, inflated used buy box. And sometimes it could be overly inflated. The lowest overall used offer is 60 all day long. That's what you're probably going to get based on the seasonality. And then the used buy box is at 150. That's overly inflated. Doesn't mean you can't get that price. Doesn't mean people haven't done it. I've done it before too. I've taken advantage of that prime gap, that prime jump. But, you know, I've noticed that the eBay to Amazon and the Amazon to Amazon flippers who are buying it to flip it at that true intrinsic value aren't hurting as much. Why? Because even though they might have had that book priced at 80, they could bring it down to 55 or 60 and snag that sale. They can incentivize Amazon to give the buy box. They could bring it closer to the merchant fulfilled price. So maybe the people who don't go through the buy box see that offer, see it's the 2-day shipping prime from Amazon, and they go ahead and buy it, right? Because again, I'm talking to a lot of people behind the scenes, Mike included, Joji, Victor, other people who are selling used books. Some of my students, coaches of Reselling Freedom, they are selling books FBA, even though the merchants are lower. Now, sometimes they're winning the buy box. Sometimes they're not winning the buy box. Matter of fact, I don't even know 100% how they're getting these sales, but based on my research, even though they're not the lowest overall price and they're FBA, they are still selling the items. I'm going to do a live show with Mike, the used book guy, very soon and talk about this because, you know, might as well come out of the horse's mouth. He's doing it. He's living it. He's flipping these used DVDs, these used books. He was showing me screenshots. He was showing me his sales. Now, will things maybe get worse in the future? Possibly. But my best advice would be, moving forward, if you're going to thrift stores, if you're sourcing from eBay, if you're sourcing from Amazon, you want to make sure to check Keepa. Don't trust what Scoutly or Scout IQ or even, you know, what the FBA price is when you're using the Amazon seller app. Don't trust that to make your decision and say, I'm going to sell it at this price. You want to try to figure out what's the true intrinsic value. What's the worst case scenario? Where are the merchants at? This sucks. It really blows, to be honest. And, you know, in the future, there could be, I know Joji was alluding to this and some other people in the forums are alluding to this, there could be, we're speculating, multiple buy boxes. So maybe in the future, what we're going to see is when we land on a book listing, we're going to see multiple buy boxes at once. So maybe you'll see like one new buy box and then you'll see 2 used buy boxes, one for FBA elevated price, maybe a $22 book, FBA buy box, and then maybe a $13 book buy box, but that's from a merchant. So maybe there'll be a merchant buy box and then an FBA buy box per condition, possibly, who knows. Yoda Yi, who is associated with 3 Colts, he runs the Book Flipper Group, Inventory Lab, some other programs under the 3 Colts umbrella. He had a meeting with a bunch of higher ups at Amazon, and they confirmed that this isn't a glitch. This isn't just something that, you know, a piece of code that's missing. They are testing out a new algorithm with the buy box. Is it related to the FTC, the lawsuits, the heat coming down on them? Is it related to maybe them wanting to clear out the FBA warehouses? We don't know, but right now, there's a lot of weird things happening with the buy box, and you want to play it safe, right? You want to play it very safe when you're spending money right now. Again, one thing I would recommend is buy new DVDs, buy new CDs, buy new toys, buy new games. These items are selling. I've been flipping these items for over 4 years, and a lot of people think that new is so much more dangerous. It really isn't. The only time new is really, really dangerous is, I'll give you a couple examples. Number one, if you're selling new books, why? The publishers don't like that. So I'd stay away from selling new books. 2, if it's a really popular, fast-selling item. Why? Because those types of items are more likely to be counterfeit, but also more likely to have a brand who's either A, on the listing, or B, has, you know, some type of law firm or infringement company working for them who will want to clear off all the sellers and give people IP complaints, right? So there's obviously ways to mitigate the risk, looking for the brand on the listing, going after slower selling items. 1 to 10 sales per month is my sweet spot with CDs and DVDs in terms of new and board games and different things like that, but also looking at Keepa to make sure there's no sharp declines, and even using IP Alert, which is a Chrome extension developed by Nate McAllister and Chris Grant, that will essentially, you know, compare a product, an ASIN, to their database to see if there's any history of that brand giving an IP complaint, which could be obviously very, very helpful. But I'd recommend, you know, check out Bookmine for books, flipping used books using Keepa. Check out Replen Catcher to be able to find deals on eBay to flip on Amazon. Of course, Keepa, make sure to run your numbers, look at the Keepa chart, look at the history to find that true intrinsic value. But if you're flipping new, no problems right now. If you're flipping used, you could definitely be in trouble if you're not pricing competitively. And if you paid too much for those products that you purchased based on what you think you were going to be able to sell it for at a inflated buy box price, you could be in trouble right now. But don't be mistaken. There's plenty of sellers right now selling books who are FBA, and then there's plenty who aren't. So we're going to have to see what happens. Again, I'm the messenger right now. I'm just gathering a lot of data, collecting it, bring it to you guys, and hopefully this helps a little bit. Maybe you get 1 or 2 little tips in here or something that resonates, or you know, just helps you to build clarity with what to do moving forward. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on this video, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed. That's today's update, and I'll see you in the next one. Much love. Bye.